my cool now, baby. I got to lose my cool now, darling. I may have to fool now, baby. Yeah.
Are you ready? I hope you're ready. Are you ready? 'Cause I am. Said I'm ready to party. Yeah. Grab your coat, get your keys. 'Cause whatever you're drinking, it's on me. It's on me. Stay here if you want to. Say what you want to. But I got a party. I needs me a party. Came here to get you, but I can't wait to grab me a partner and cut a rug up tonight. I found a place where we could boogie. Boogie tonight. I found a place where we could boogie. Boogie. Oh, are you ready? Are you ready? I know you're ready. I'll be ready. Here we are. Said we're off in the party. Yeah. Let me wet my throat. Get 2 or 3. Then it's on to the dance floor. Follow me. Stand if you want to. Stare if you want to. But I got a party. I'm up in the party. You're glad that I got you. And it's alright. You got you a partner. So cut a rug up tonight. Yeah. I found a place where we could boogie. Boogie tonight. I found a place where we could boogie. Boogie tonight. I found a place where we could boogie. Boogie. I
La 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 la.
Yo, what's the deal? Ain't nothing, Paul. We just here laughing and all that. Trying to get our heads right, get this money right and all that. You know what I'm saying? You know how it goes. Just another day in the hood. Yo, one night, New York City, heard it going down. Friday night, midnight, Atlantic City. Slash machines, ding, 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 ding. When they ring off, lock the doors. That's when ghosts just G-Dos. Cigars, paisley robes. 4 bitches guarded me safely as we walked to the window. The cashier was scared, she asked for my info. The manager arrived with 2 guys, that's an insult. That's the code, Mr. Coles. We talking about $5 million here. This ain't Play-Doh, dough. In your horoscope red, you gon' slay those. We got scribbles, Anthony Acid, rocking the show. Special guest star, Mark Bronson. First 500 just went crazy when he let they answer. And all he did was plug me in. I got the charge and got they bras and ran through they whole department.
Shaking the gas, they throwing it up like a BT commercial. I'm wrapping them up.
Jump the pump when I bang big bullets, I buck up a chump. I love to get a bitch that's stuck up the hump. Act dog and my foot get stuck up your rump like boom. Yeah, I heard. I bust and that's my word. So if you get out of line and your is mine, and I'ma run up in your house, put it in your mouth. I might be new to the game, but it's a damn shame what a brother about to do to the game. I got Mark Ron backing me up. I'm already on a song with Nate Dogg. That's why you wanna hate dog. Here's a warning. When Mark bring the horns in, say the wrong thing and you won't see the morning.
é caboclo, é da mata, na cachoeira passou. Viver seus filhos na terra, trazendo o bem e o amor.
Ele atirou a flecha com seu botão que atirou. Ele atirou a flecha com seu botão que atirou.
Pra combater a mandinga, correu a gira, girou. Os males de todo mundo para o espaço levou.
Ele atirou a flecha com seu botão que atirou. Ele atirou a flecha com seu botão que atirou.
Com pensamento em meu pai, nada tenho que temer. Ele só me pede a fé no mundo é poder.
Ele só me pede a fé no mundo é poder. Ele atirou a flecha com seu botão que atirou. Ele atirou a flecha com seu botão que atirou. Ele atirou a flecha com seu botão que atirou. Ele atirou a flecha com seu botão que atirou. Ele atirou a flecha com seu botão que atirou. Ele atirou a flecha com seu botão que atirou.
Com pensamento em meu pai, nada tenho que temer. Ele só me pede a fé no mundo é poder.
Ele só me pede a fé no mundo é poder. Ele atirou a flecha com seu botão que atirou. Ele atirou a flecha com seu botão que atirou. Ele atirou a flecha com seu botão que atirou.
Por que, caboclo? Por que, bamboquinha?
Ele atirou a flecha One night in a disco on the outskirts of Frisco, I was cruising with my favorite gang. The place was so boring, filled with out-of-towners touring. I knew that it wasn't my thing. I really wasn't caring, but I felt my eyes staring at a guy who stuck out in the crowd. He had the kind of body that would shame Adonis, and a face that would make any man proud. Oh, what wow! He's the greatest dancer. Oh, what wow! That I've ever seen. Oh, what wow! He's the greatest dancer. Oh, what wow! The champion of dance, his moves will put you in a trance, and he never leaves the disco alone. Arrogance but not conceit. As a man, he's complete. My creme de la creme. Please take me home. He wears the finest clothes, the best designers, heaven knows. Ooh, from his head down to his toes. Halston, Gucci, Fiorucci. He looks like a steal. That man is dressed to kill. Oh, what wow! He's the greatest dancer. Oh, what wow! I've ever seen. He's the greatest dancer. Oh, what wow! Ooh, 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 wow! Oh, what wow! Yeah, he's the greatest dancer. Oh, what wow! That I've ever seen. I love the moves. He's the greatest dancer. Oh, what wow! That I've ever seen.
Échale pon, dale un funky, rico tumbao.
Un día le digo a mi pana, oye mi pana,
Échale pon, dale un funky, rico tumbao.
coge tu piano y yo te saco la conga.
Échale pon,
¿Qué?
dale un funky, rico tumbao.
Lo que traigo es el gozo de verdad, mamá.
Échale pon,
Sabe a salsa, sabe a salsa. Ven, en español, en inglés, en francés, lo que sea.
échale pon, dale un funky, rico tumbao.
Y todo mi corazón hormigón armado, patina mamamita.
Échale pon, dale un funky, rico tumbao.
Y en el camino, mi socio.
Échale pon,
Ven, bere, ven, bere, ven, bere, ven, bere.
rico tumbao.
Con la 70 brava te lo brindamos sabroso.
Échale pon, dale un funky, rico tumbao.
Sentí una voz que me dijo, cambia de lado.
Échale pon, dale un funky, rico tumbao.
Tumbao, tumbao, tumbao.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would please like to make your way towards the stage, we're about to begin. Please don't be shy, there's plenty of room in front of the stage. Thank you.
On bagaille qui nique la vie, ton goût, toute bagaille. Vous payez en moins, Madinine.
Respeta un ritmo funky, mezclas con salsa en clave. París tiene la llave, te voy a dar 70. Respeta un ritmo funky, mezclas con salsa en clave. París tiene la llave, te voy a dar 70. Respeta un ritmo funky, mezclas con salsa en clave. París tiene la llave, te voy
Ladies and gentlemen, if I can have your attention. Okay, that got your attention. Welcome, lovely to see you all. Welcome to the Coutts Entrepreneur Month Prosper Through Change launch. It's lovely to see you all. You're all hiding at the back there, and I just would like to say that if you, like me and Coutts, believe in the future of Britain, do you believe in that? Yes. Then join me in taking at least 5 steps forward. Come this way. Let's have you a little bit further forward. Not into the carp pond. That's a that would be a bad start. Yes, that's it. Come forward. There we go. Lovely. A few people creating a few business plans at the back there. Don't worry. There's going to be a break. That's it. Lovely to see you. Now, I'm Michael Heyman. I'm chairman of Entrepreneurs here at Coutts, and it's my very great pleasure to launch our showcase, our beacon, our best of British entrepreneur showcase. 30 days of outstanding content to celebrate and inspire entrepreneurship in Britain. And I have to tell you that we've been on the road for the last 6 months, meeting some of the most outstanding business leaders around the UK. It's been an absolute pleasure. Now, as well as working in my role at Coutts, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm also an author. I wrote a book called Mission, How the Best in Business Break Through. And I have to tell you that with only 85 sleeps till Christmas, it's a great Christmas present, great for the stocking filler. I mean, I know there's a few people getting a bit anxious about that, so I would remind you that go on Amazon, it's a great read. But I'll tell you something, tonight we're here on the back of nearly 3 weeks of lots of different people, lots of different political variations, convening in Manchester, Brighton, Bournemouth, but here at Coutts it's going to be more party than conference, because I can tell you tonight we're going to dare to call a vote of confidence. We are going to dare to ask you your opinions about the future of the UK. We've got signage all around you that's not going to fall down. And yes, we are going to get it done at 4:40 here tonight, as we have a conversation about the very best in business, about how you can prosper through change. And any party, I can tell you, is not fit without a brilliant DJ, because our DJ Alice, who is hidden somewhere amongst you, one of her biggest gigs was the Champions League final. Alice, where are you? Give us a blast. Let's hear you. Where you go? Let's hear what those decks sound like. That isn't match of the day, which I was expecting, but I'll tell you, a big round of applause for Alice. Welcome. Right. And I have to tell you that we believe that tonight might well be the biggest ever event ever to be convened here at 440 The Strand. You know, I'll tell you what, whether it's fake news or true news, it's going to work for me. And I'll tell you, if you want to tweet that, @Coutts & Co. Is the Twitter handle, and @Coutts Entrepreneurs is the hashtag. So a very large event here tonight. I think before we get going, I think it was a pretty weedy round of applause that you gave to Alice. I'd like to I'd like to encourage you. Because our speakers are shy and retiring types. I mean, let's hear what a round of applause might sound like. Let's go with me. Okay, right. Okay. That's let's agree that's the lowest level of emotional engagement tonight. Let's try one that sort of brings blue skies where outside there is darkness, thunder, and end of days. Let's sort of like give something that will actually fill this auditorium with the sound that entrepreneurs can make. So I would say, think clapping, think cheering, think whatever takes your fancy. On 3, let's give it the best one we can. 1, 2, 3, go for it. Yeah. Okay. Now we're in business. Brilliant. Right. Now, a quick show of hands. Those that think the UK is a great place to be an entrepreneur. Those that agree with that. And those that disagree with that. Well, I can tell you that's the vote of confidence that we've been waiting for. At least this is the right event for entrepreneurs, because there's a lot of optimism in the room. And I'll tell you, there's a great survey that Coutts has carried out over the last few months, which I think does very much reflect that optimism in the room about actually the people that have got the guts to go for it. Now, we're going to have plenty to mull on tonight. Brilliant speakers. We've got 8 speakers, 4 sessions, one real focus, what it takes to prosper through change. To get us going, it's great to be able to welcome Dylan Williams, who is the Managing Director for England and Wales here at Coutts. He and I have been travelling the country on our own battle bus. We've seen what entrepreneurship is like, the length and breadth of the UK. Do give him a very big round of applause.
Thank you, Michael, and welcome back. Fantastic to have you back on board this year. And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What a fantastic turnout. And what a fantastic way to launch our second Entrepreneurs Month. We're absolutely delighted to welcome you to our home here at 440 The Strand. It's a place that's very special to us. After all, we have been on the Strand for over 300 years. And we're very, very proud of our heritage. We're very proud of our history and our client base. And the fact that over the many years throughout our history, we've managed the wealth of and partnered with many of the UK's leading pioneers. And today at Coutts, we look after 20,000 entrepreneurs. That's a privilege. And we work with them as we help them navigate through the changes in their businesses, in their personal circumstances. And we're able to advise and work with them and partner with them through that journey, whether they're scaling up, whether they're exiting, retiring, although very few do, starting up again, because of the breadth of our proposition across the lending, the banking, financial planning and investments that we're able to provide. And importantly, our clients always tell us how important our connections are, our network. And I was just having a conversation just a minute ago about the importance of bringing like-minded people together. And today is a great way of emphasising the power of the Coutts Club. And we're absolutely delighted to have you all here. Now, yesterday there was an article in the FT where our chief executive said he has the best job in the bank. Well, he's wrong. I do. I am so fortunate. I get to travel across the country meeting entrepreneurs, whether they're prospects, whether they're existing clients, who are having a massive impact in their local communities, having a massive impact on local economies. They're driving change in industry, and actually they're shaping the future in the world we're going to live in. And what always strikes me wherever I go is the positive attitude, the relentless focus to succeed, the fact they always see opportunities when everyone else sees problems, and their sheer bloody mindedness, the fact that actually their resilience levels are off the scale. And it always strikes me when you're having these conversations, they're always asking, what's next? What's the next opportunity? So last year, we commissioned a report asking exactly that question, because we wanted to celebrate those that are forward-looking. We wanted to celebrate those that were brimming with optimism, taking risks and grabbing opportunities. And actually, it was out of the back of that report that Entrepreneurs Month was born. And last year, we had 31 fantastic days dedicated to the pioneers of today's economy. Now, a quick question. How many of you were at the launch event last year? Hands up. Oh, less than I expected. But nonetheless, those of you who are here, nobody, I think, will have forgotten the truly powerful speech by the black farmer, Emmanuel Wilford Jones. It was truly inspirational, and many clients have referenced it, meeting them following that evening. And then for the closing event, we had a great debate, a terrific debate between Lord Billamoria and Dame Helena Morrissey. And the feedback we got from those events, from clients and everyone attended, was brilliant. You've got to do more of this. And actually, Michael, I and Paul Fletcher, our head of marketing, we sat down and said, actually, how do we take this across the country? There's so much happening across the UK. And we've had roadshows in Manchester, Bristol, Birmingham, Leeds, Newcastle, where we've convened some of their leading entrepreneurs. And we've heard about how they're focusing on driving their businesses forward and prospering through change. And we've learned about how they're changing mindsets of the consumer, how they're having a positive impact on their local communities, and how they're succeeding when others are struggling. So when we returned, we said, how do we top that? How do we take this to another level? In true entrepreneurial spirit, we didn't look backwards, we looked forward, and tonight we're going to do that. We're going to top it, aren't we, Michael? Yeah, sound convincing. So over the next 90 minutes, we're going to hear some 8 truly inspirational entrepreneurs, innovative in their own right, and we're all with fascinating stories to tell. And then throughout this month, we're going to focus on the experiences of leading entrepreneurs and actually share their experiences about their own journey, mistakes they've made, what they've learned, and also provide insights into how they're dealing with the challenges today and looking to prosper and succeed, and how they're navigating the current political and economic landscape. But finally, we also want to show and talk about and put a spotlight on those industries that are disrupting business and those industries that are going to actually fire Britain's growth into the future. Now, I've no doubt we're going to hear all of that tonight. Really looking forward to hearing from all the speakers, and I'm really looking forward to the event. I think it's going to be fantastic, and it's terrific to see so many people here. We do ask that you enjoy yourself, meet as many new people as possible. All the Coutts hosts should have a badge on, so if you need anything, please do ask them. But most of all, have a fantastic evening. I look forward to meeting many of you later. And Michael, let's get this started.
Thank you very much, Philip. Great. Well done. Cheers. Great. Right. Now, just if I could draw your attention to the front windows at Coutts, and also all around you. These are just some of the entrepreneurs that have been speaking at Coutts events over the course of 2019. Now, tonight you're going to hear from somebody who hasn't spoken at Coutts before. And if you were to encapsulate our first speaker, his business mission was quite simple, actually. How do you create McDonald's in heaven? And I think that that's a very good question. If you could imagine at the pearly gates what a McDonald's might look like. Well, John Vincent created his own answer to that by co-founding and co-creating the business Leon. And I have to tell you, I am an enthusiastic consumer of Leon. It's a healthy fast food phenomenon that's conquered London and now has world domination in his sights. But if you think that language sounds a bit too much like warfare, you would be right to complain, as John no doubt will, because he has just written a book called Winning, Not Fighting, which I've been winning through all day today. I've enjoyed reading it, especially the fact that one guy with 2 first names, John Vincent, met a woman with 2 first names called Wendy Mandy. And between them, they came up with the inspiration of a new way of doing business. It's a brilliant read, I have to tell you, and he's got some absolutely fantastic ideas to share with you here tonight. So do welcome John Vincent of Leon.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as light.
Right, okay, I've written a book as well. As you can hear, it's not as good as his, but it is available for pre-order. Now, it is great to be here when I needed a loan. There's a reason I'm here. When I needed a loan, we needed someone with vision. We needed a bank that was going to back us, and we came to Coutts, and they said, "Fuck off." And I've literally only just remembered that. So yeah, so there's more. Anyway, so I have to say, they've got great sense. I am eminently unbackable, to be honest with you. Just a lot of emotional issues. Anyway, so let me. So I had a coaching session with a woman called Amy, acute E, like fiance, and I went to Rabot Estate, which is like a posh version of Hotel Chocolat in Borough Market, because Borough Market doesn't allow brands, so they had to posh it up and call it Rabot Estate. And she recorded it, and she then had what was session 1, and she had spent so much time listening to this recording, and she said, "I've just got one thing for you, John." I said, "What is it, Amy?" She said, "You do know that you're not actually the general of an army." And I was like, "Are you sure?" Because I had convinced myself so much that I was beating the enemy and I was battling with the troops. I was on the front line. We had our war rooms. I mean, Amazon, I don't know who knows, but does anyone know Baby Jesus? It's not assembly. Okay, we don't want to sing Bethlehem. And so basically, baby Jesus was all about peace and love, right? Right, so what do we do at Christmas to celebrate baby Jesus? We buy TVs. And so the TVs need to get shipped by Amazon, right? And to create because they were so shit at delivering TVs in the early years, Amazon decided to create a war on chaos, right? So they said, I know we're shit at delivering TVs, it's chaotic, let's have a war on chaos. Has anyone, be honest, been in war? You're all too busy being entrepreneurs, pretend generals like me. So war's shit. So we hired someone who'd been in 2 tours of Afghanistan, and all he spent his time doing was trying not to commit suicide and have PTSD training. So that's what war's actually like. So what I've started to realize in writing Winning Not Fighting and learning a martial art, bear with me, that's about not fighting, called Wing Chun, which is Bruce Lee's martial art. I've been through like a right journey that I want to share with you, and I'll keep it brief. What I started to realize is that we associate winning with fighting. It's like a nexus. We basically think they're the same thing. So we struggle, we battle, we create war rooms, we have battle buses, Boris creates a war cabinet. Fundamentally, we associate a success with the need to fight. And what I've discovered in doing this martial art, which was developed by women, it's from the Shaolin Temple, it's based on Taoism and Zen Buddhism, is that fighting and success are totally the opposites. Winning and fighting are almost the opposite thing. And in applying it at Leon, I've found that Leon has become a really much more fun place to be. When people aren't being troops and being gassed and stuff, they enjoy it more, right, metaphorically. And when we, I don't know whether you've heard of these, we've discovered we have these, because I've been to the restaurants recently. We have things called customers. Does anyone else have customers? So, yeah, 3 of you. Okay, we can do a workshop, but the rest of you, we can do a workshop on that. In war, there's no customer. What there is a beating up the competition to make us feel like we're doing something. That's what war is. And war and fighting is really what happens when we're in fight or flight. It's when our ego is being controlled by others. I started work at Procter & Gamble, and let me tell you, step one of creating the adverts at Procter & Gamble was create the fear. Isn't it embarrassing? Literally, it said to create the fear. Isn't it embarrassing when you've got dandruff because you're not going to get laid and your parents are not going to have grandchildren? But don't worry, we've got these new micropicules, here's the science bit, you're going to get laid after all. So that was basically what the P&G advert was. Then, I'm not going to name any newspaper, right, but look at the front cover, it's like fury, anger, shame, right? That is because they know that whenever they do positive news, we're not as easy to control. And when politicians, I've worked out, the reason the House of Commons doesn't work is it was never meant to work. Right? It was never meant to work because the monarchy didn't want the townspeople focusing, joining forces against the monarchy. They wanted to pit them against each other in a combative, fighty place called the House of Commons. I really believe that, right? So if you look at the debates about Brexit, there was no content whatsoever. There was no content about what does it actually mean to vote, to leave without a deal. Zero content, because it was all about fighting. I've worked with the government on something called the School Food Plan. I chair something called the Council for Sustainable Business. Government is shit, right? Secretaries of State have literally no handover from one to the other. The civil servants don't stand up and say, this is terrible, we must provide some leadership, right? The fighting that takes place in politics, do not look for politicians for any answers to our problems. So they've got to come from us, right? So I would also like to say one thing about war in business, which is, does anyone know when war became the predominant metaphor in business? Okay, so it was in the 60s. Does anyone know where the word strategy comes from? Any classicists? Anyone? Bueller? 40 Strand, okay. So it comes from the word general in Greek. And so it was only in the 60s that a certain author started to make war the predominant way of describing business. And no, there's going to do a quick quiz. Does anyone know a Chinese man that then got very famous because of Wall Street and Sopranos? He wrote a book. Pardon? Sun Tzu? Right. Did someone say it or did I imagine it? Well done. So Sun Tzu wrote The Art of War. Does anyone know what Sun Tzu actually said in his book, The Art of War? Something about finance and smart and cunning and all that stuff, right? Except he said, don't fight because war's really expensive and people get hurt, right? So what we've done in business is we've taken a metaphor where even the guy that wrote the book that we've adopted said, don't do it. And we've made it the predominant metaphor for our everyday activities. And we target the customer because we get all confused. And I went to a supermarket in America, and there was a sign of someone that had done really good customer service, and it said, to Barry for dominating in customer service. He wasn't just good at it, he wasn't being kind, he dominated in customer service. Right, so all of this, I believe, is about inflaming the ego. It's all about the bit of us which is full of shame because our parents associated love with certificates, fear because we were made to feel fear, or in my case, anger. That's all our ego. That's the bit of us that is easily manipulated through fear, anger, or shame. That's the bit of us which in work can get in the way of creativity. Because when we are embattled, something happens to our vision, it narrows. And so we're not in flow. So the book that I've written is trying to explain how at Leon, and you're being very kind, so bear with me, I'm nearly finished, how in Leon we've tried to not force. How in Leon in the restaurants we've said, I know, it's like when you do your budget and someone says, we need a more aggressive business plan. And someone says, yeah, we need a more aggressive business plan. And then it goes down to the restaurants and the manager says to the team, we need a more aggressive business plan. And the team high five. Woo! Yes, be more aggressive. And then one person, probably the most recent joiner, says, what does that mean? I don't know. I don't know what it means. Maybe we should drag people in by their hair. So all of this stuff is all bullshit, right? So what we try to do is to train people to have peripheral vision. We train people in ballet games. We train people in staying relaxed, being in flow. And if I went to an interview and said, you know what, all the great things that have ever happened in Leon have happened because we're in flow, because I've stayed relaxed, I've kept my eyes open, the investors, the franchisees, the new hires, I haven't forced any of that. All that's happened is I've done what Jim Collins said is return on luck. Has anyone read Great by Choice? It's a brilliant book. It's better than mine. And so basically, it's not really, I'm just using irony. Reverse psychology. What he said was, every successful business has had the same luck. I don't know how the fuck he did this analysis, but as the businesses that failed, conjoint analyses with twin businesses. Each business that succeeded had as much luck as the others, but they had return on luck. Why is staying relaxed important? Is because your peripheral vision is open when you're relaxed. So the wisdoms in the book that I've written, are know yourself. They're things like stay relaxed, don't force, positivity, simplicity. And they're all based on a journey that Taoism and Zen Buddhism said was about discovering wholeness. If you look at every single religion or every single philosophy, they say that man's fundamental journey is to go from separation and conflict and ego to wholeness, which is where we realize that maybe we are all one. You don't have to kiss me. But where maybe we are all one. Maybe the separation where we say the apple is different from the branch, is different from the tree, creates full separation. So every religion has come to that conclusion. So all I'm going to suggest, I'm not going to overplay Wing Chun. It's just the solution to all of our problems. That's all it is. Thank you for having me. Did everybody just check my phone, see if there's anything else I wanted to say? No, that was pretty much it.
That's it. Well,
yeah, thanks a lot. Thank you for having me.
One quick question. Thank you for that start, John. I have to tell you is that in the 327 years of Coutts' history, last year did bring a new record, which is that the F-bomb, we believe, was dropped in about 4 minutes in the first speech by Wilfred Emmanuel Jones. Right. You did it in 60 seconds. I think that is
Thank you.
That is an achievement in of itself. But just one quick question before you go.
Sorry.
One quick question. The win for Leon.
Yes.
Bring this all to your business in terms of what does winning mean when you think about your business, when you think about Leon the brand and the future?
Okay, so I think that the extinction thing is not overblown. I believe that Leon's contribution to that is to help rewilding, to help rewild the human, to help rewild the organizations that we run, and to rewild the planet around biodiversity. I don't think the oil companies are going to stop making oil anytime soon. I don't think we're going to stop using it. So I think we have to replant and we have to rewild. And I think we do need to, by 2050, rewild half of this country. And Leon wants to participate and support that. That is what winning is to Leon. That's it, plain and simple.
Brilliant. John Vincent, thank you very much indeed. Cheers. Very good. Right. Okay. We're going to move on to our first panel. We're looking at entrepreneurs shaping the future. We've got three amazing technologists who are going to give us their views about what happens next. Catherine Wise is the founder of World Remit, the online money transfer service, now valued at almost $1 billion. Ozalash is a former lieutenant colonel in the British Army and Special Forces, so he knows a thing or two about winning and fighting. He's the founder of CyberSafe, the intelligent security platform, a cybersecurity business, and Miles Jacobson, who is the Supremo Studio Director of Sports Interactive. It's the gaming company behind the world-famous Football Manager. They're three absolutely brilliant entrepreneurs in their own right, representing three amazing sectors. Do give them a big warm welcome. Come on, guys. Good to have you on here.
Someone to tear it down, then pack it up in boxes, head for the next town, 'cause I've got memories and travel like gypsies in the night. And 1,000 times
Now, actually, Oz, I'm going to start with you. You listened to John there. You're a former elite military man. I'm sure you've got battle plans and war rooms. Give us a sense of just a response to some of those ideas in terms of what they might mean to your business.
Yeah, I think it's. I thought it was a really good and really interesting view from John. We don't have war rooms, but we do have plans. And I think actually, as an entrepreneur, not just in this country, but in any country, it would be remiss of any of us to say that we expect everything to just happen for us, or indeed be foolish enough to expect everything to go according to plan. But as many people in the military will say, the plan is nothing, the planning is everything, the process by which you go through. So I'm a huge fan of taking a longer view. I don't think a longer term view really would drive many of us to want to fight. I actually think what John said was very true there. I disagree with him slightly about one thing. The military does have a customer. Their customer is creating space for other people to have a conversation. Sometimes you just need to encourage them to do so. But the fact of the matter is that in business, and indeed in our particular business, we have a challenge. Cybercrime is our challenge.
Right, I'm going to ask about your business in a minute. Just a couple of other quick responses. Catherine, does what you hear from John speak to a more purposeful entrepreneur? I mean, is the character of business, the character of entrepreneurship changing? Is there something that you're picking up from a World Remit?
Yeah, I think so. People are looking at different things. When you're looking at a business these days, especially the younger generation, Millennium, Gen Z, and so on, are looking at much more at purpose. And so it's not just about having a great job and earning lots of money. I think people want to see that they actually have an impact. And therefore, it's a business, but what is the impact of that business? And I think that's very important. It's becoming more and more important.
And what about gaming, Miles? Does this debate feature in the world of football or not?
Of trying to make an impact. Of course. I mean, we impact people's lives in so many different ways because people spend so much time playing games. There are lots of games that have educational elements in them. There are lots of games that are doing a lot of good. Just at the UN Climate Action Summit, was it last week?
Last week.
There was a coalition of 21 companies, including my own, making announcements about what we are trying to do to combat climate change. So So we are an entertainment industry, but we try to be good as well.
You can gamify the future.
Well, everyone's trying to gamify everything at the moment. So every brand out there wants to gamify stuff, whereas we think the games come first.
Let's go right the way back. Tell us about your businesses. Give us a quick pitch. Let's imagine this is Dragon's Den. We're pitching your business. You've got a sort of very short period to do it. Catherine, tell us a little bit about World Remit.
Okay, World Remit is transforming the world of remittances. Remittances is sending money back home. So we're helping mainly migrants sending money back to their family. And when I talk about purpose and impact, remittances account for about 3 times the global aid given by government. So remittances are very important. They go back to people to help them, education, health, and so on. So,
and give us a sense of the scale of the
So
business.
we started 9 years ago. We've got now 900 people. Started 3 of us, and we're now 900. And we did probably just under 90 million revenue last year. So we've grown very quickly over the 9 years.
Oz, introduce us to CyberSafe.
So CyberSafe is a cybersecurity and data analytics company. We are laser focused on the human aspect of cybersecurity. So we help organizations through our software platform address human cyber risk by focusing on behaviors and attitudes, but also then using the data that we generate from that understanding to help them understand the risk they face. And our platform literally learns the best time, the best way, and the most appropriate way to provide people interventions. We're based in Canary Wharf at level 39. We're a relatively young company at 3.5 years in concept stage, but 2 years of going to market. And in that time, we've raised a couple of rounds of funding. There are now 50 of us focused on this.
And Miles, give us a sense of your business.
Well, we're old. We've been going for 27 years now, making...
You have to apologise. Sustainability.
Making computer games to help people escape from their normal jobs. I think most of the people here are pretty lucky in that we probably enjoy our jobs, right? There's lots of people who don't. So we give people the chance to become football managers and find out if they really do know more than the manager of their club. And as a sideline, we're now involved in the data side of things. We have 1,300 scouts around the world, which is the largest scouting network in football. And football clubs actually buy data from us. So it's life imitating art, imitating life, imitating art.
But you're all involved in many ways in 3 big bets about where UK enterprise goes: esports, cybersecurity, fintech. These are 3 of the big ones. Give us a sense of why those markets, from your perspective, are the ones of the future. Why you're in them. I think Oz, maybe kick you off with cybersecurity.
Yes, I think most of us would struggle to argue against the fact that the world is ever and increasingly connected, increasingly digitized, and increasingly interdependent. And of course, with that and with many of the challenges that we face as a society, technology has a real role to play in the way in which we address those challenges. That's a really exciting opportunity for all of us to play our part. With it comes a number of other challenges, though. There are people who make quite a lot of money from disrupting that. And so cybersecurity and indeed data privacy by extension as well are 2 big areas that no matter where you are in society, no matter where you are in the world, will directly affect you. If you're a business, you will probably have it somewhere on a risk register. And of course, if you're an individual, despite the fact that you probably or may not consider yourself a technologist, you are very, very attached to technology. So for a number of reasons, it is a big bet. Actually, it's a necessary bet for us as well. Our national security relies on it, our purpose and the way we do it.
But is this back to sort of John's sort of dandruff sort of metaphor? I mean, we're being scared, in many respects. You listen to like the ads on, the ads on the radio or the TV, this is a real cyber threat. I mean, to what degree is the threat, in your view, real? How seriously should people take this? Or is this just brilliant marketing that's getting people to spend a lot of money at the moment?
It's unfortunate because the threat is very real. But I don't think actually it's the threat we should focus on. The threat is impossible to deny. As I've said, cybercrime increases and more people are affected by it. But remember what I said, this is an opportunity for us as a group of people, as society, to engage with technology. And we need to do so. There aren't many businesses represented here that will not thrive from it. So yes, there is a threat, but I would suggest that there's a bigger opportunity and we need to engage with technology more.
Catherine, UK FinTech, give us a sense of the community that you're a part of and your sense of its future.
Well, UK FinTech, you see it every day in the news and receiving, the largest amount of investment. Actually, I think it was a couple of days ago, there was an article saying that we were actually topped the league table above New York. I think it's a very thriving environment because we are trying to resolve problem. Sometimes simple problem like World Remit, which was simply bringing an industry which was very traditional, offline, a bit like the travel agent before. You used to go to a shop to book your ticket. And now you do it online, and it was the same with our sector. It's making it, using technology to make it easier, cheaper, and much more convenient. So it's resolving people's problem.
Mars, give us a sense of your sector, of esports particularly. I mean, and also from the perspective of people that may well have been, in the past thinking, well, that's a kind of hobby. I mean, it's big business now, isn't it?
Yeah, I think my mum stopped asking me when I was going to get a proper job.
When you made your first billion?
When I got the OBE and went to the Palace. That was.
Right.
She hasn't asked since then, which is good. But games are entertainment, and esports. There might be some people in the room are aware of what it is, but it's the most democratic sport out there. It doesn't matter whether you're amateur. It doesn't matter if you're pro.
Bring it to life for us.
It's people playing computer games against one another. It's stuff that we've been doing all the years for those of us who've been playing games for 30, 40 years. It's what we do on our sofas with our friends, but it's bringing it to life with broadcast standard quality. The recent Fortnite World Championships was watched by over 100 million people live on the internet, so there's no TV companies making money out of it at the moment. It's just kids and adults playing games and people watching them.
And how you monetize that, and the role of the UK as part of that. Give us that.
So monetization at the moment is mainly through sponsorship. It's going to be through other deals in the future, but it's the same way that influencers make money. It's advertising, it's sponsorship. The UK, for a start, is making a lot of the games where esports are popular, also has a lot of venues, and has a lot of tech companies based here. So Here East, which is where our office is becoming a bit of a cluster for esports in the Olympic Park, part of the regeneration of the Olympic Park. And Staffordshire University have just opened an esports university. Actually, 2 floors below us, have a bunch of students who've just joined, learning how to be more on the event side of things and on the shoutcasting side of things.
Okay, right. Now, this issue that we're addressing all of this month is about how you prosper through change. There is no doubt about it that the UK is going through quite a period of change right now. From the perspective of your businesses and the parts of the technology sector that you represent, it'd be great to get your view on how you see the road ahead. Allow me to drop another bomb, the B bomb, Brexit. How do you see that playing out from your perspective? Catherine, maybe you can kick us off and we'll work our way down the panel for some final thoughts.
Well, obviously the fintech is affected by the B word, and we've had to take, a step to get another license in Europe, and so, I think most businesses have taken that. At the same time, we are a global business, so we don't just see Europe, we see the world, and we see very much, our base in the UK being very much the great base to do that global expansion. And that's why I think, again, I've mentioned to people earlier on that the UK is still the best place to launch that global expansion. There's a lot happening in the fintech. Technology changes all the time, and I think there's opportunities there to use that, and I certainly see it in our business. From the time we started back in 2010 to today, technology has changed, and we've been able to add to our product to make it easier.
But when you see someone like France investing $5 billion into technology in the last couple of weeks,
yes.
I mean, do you just think, well,
yes, Station F, if people have been to Station F in France, it's great, but that's where, I'm French, that's where the French do it, they have to be big and everything. The reality, I still think, business, to do business, access to capital, access to talent, which is more challenging in the UK, but, we are, as a global business, if you want to expand, especially to the US, being in an English-speaking country, I think is also very important.
Oz, your thoughts, road ahead?
Yeah, I think we have an incredible opportunity as a nation, and I think actually opportunity and leadership are the two watchwords that I think we as entrepreneurs, but also we as society, need to embrace. Many times, regardless of which way you voted or which way you think things are going to go, we behave as if everything is set for us, but the reality is actually it's all up for grabs. So what we do now, and between now and a decision, and indeed not a decision, but now and the next steps, and what we do after that will determine what we face. And actually in our particular industry, so cybersecurity industry, of course, that's not going to go away regardless of Brexit and what happens. In fact, if anything, it's only going to become even more relevant. So exciting.
Miles, I'm thinking Brexit, the video game, it's got to come. There's a market opportunity,
Well,
surely.
we have Brexit in Football Manager, so it's something that's going to affect the football world. So when the vote happened, I spent the weekend directly after the vote. This is not a nice thing. I spent the weekend on my sofa in my pants working out every single possible scenario of Brexit, and we put them all into the game with percentage chances of happening, which ended up with me having loads of data that I could then share with the football industry and with the government on what we should be doing to protect UK PLC.
And I don't want to leave people with that image of you in your pants. I mean, a final thought about the road ahead for our audience, how it feels being a technology business, growing your market share, growing that global business. Tell us a little bit about your final thought on that.
I am not as positive, maybe, as some others regarding the B word. I think it's going to be very tough from a hiring perspective in particular. But we are also a global business. Our business is going to carry on regardless. And we just need to be able to bring in the best talent from around the world.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. In the words of Meatloaf, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Thank you very much to our superb panel. Big round of applause. Now, thank you guys. We're going to break for 15 minutes. We're going to have you back for 2 final sessions, absolutely brilliant ones coming up. We're going to have a funder and founder session, and then we're going to be having a final interview with Sloyd Dorford. See you in 15 minutes.
mania de sofrer. Nada será além de tudo. O que importa é viver. Melhor assim, feliz. Estrelas lá no céu vão ressurgir por nós. Guarde minha voz. Você me escutar, vem pra ver e sentir o amor maior que eu tenho pra te dar. Seguir em frente, a luz explode numa mesma direção. Palavra-chave, viver. Aperte enquanto é tempo a minha mão, enfim. de papo, de emprego. Não está vendo? Não estou nessa. O que eu quero? Sossego. Eu quero sossego. Quero sossego. O que eu quero? Sossego. O que eu quero? Sossego. O que eu quero? Sossego. Eu quero
All he talks about is losing. Lose. Oh man, well he knows to make a buck.
I feel it inside my soul. Longing to you. There's enough to go all the way around. Longing to you. Let me feel you up inside. This feeling's fun. That's all it is. Longing to you. Time I ain't got fun. That's what it is. Baby, come up with me. Walking for Jamaica. With you, yeah. Let it get into you. Jamaica funk, that's all it is. Yeah, let it get into you. If you feel it, let it get into you. Jamaica funk, that's what it is. Baby, come funk with me. We'll be funkin' for Jamaica.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, can I have your attention? We're back in the room. There we have it. Right. One quick thing before we get going. Just look at somebody around you. Who's been speed dating before? Gentleman at the back nodding vigorously. That's a Friday night sort of right. Who else is that? Anybody? You just look around. Somebody you don't know. I'm going to give you a gift. Say hello to somebody who you don't know. We're going to give you 20 seconds. On my whistle, 3, 2, 1. Just say hello. Good evening. Right. Right. Okay. We did want to give you more time for that, but it looks like you're chatting well. Now we're going to move on to our funder and the founder session. So think when the event's over, you can pick up where you left off. Excellent. Right. Okay. Let's move on. We're going to move on to our next session, looking at what it takes to grow a great business, but also what it takes to fund one. It's a great pleasure to welcome two absolutely superb guests as part of that. They're going to be telling us a little bit about a business and what it took to invest in it. Now, Tushy Bullitt is the CEO and founder of Street Bees, which is an intelligence platform that reveals how people behave. So I'm looking forward to what she's going to tell us about our gathering here tonight. But it analyzes real-life moments collected from its worldwide users. Backing that business is the BGF, the Business Growth Fund, which is the UK and Ireland's most active provider of growth capital for small and mid-sized companies. The CEO of the BGF is here as well, Stephen Welton, who's overseen the BGF's growth as an active investor in entrepreneurial-led firms. Please do give them a massive round of applause. Come on, guys. Right, Tisha, did I get that right?
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about the business.
Yeah, why not? So Street Bees is a global intelligence platform. We replace traditional market research. If any of you have actually worked at P&G, you would know that they need to understand why consumers do what they do. But they ask people questions like, how often do you eat ice cream? Who can answer that, right? That makes some assumptions about human beings being rational and consistent, and we are neither. So we make decisions with our emotions. So we invented the concept of conversational research, where we can understand how people are actually making their decisions in the moment by sharing with us if they are afraid, ashamed, angry, which actually derives the reason why they end up eating ice cream.
Right, now you went through a fundraising round. When you actually were thinking about that, what were the signals that you were ready to do it? Was there a moment where you thought, right, we're going for funding? And if so, what was that?
That's a good question. When investor starts chasing you, that's a good moment to decide that, you're probably ready for that. We actually resisted for a while. We are very lucky. We are B2B business. So we were already working with people like Unilevers and P&Gs who took a chance on us, and we were generating revenues. But we reached a stage where we thought, okay, if we're going to really build this and disrupt the $75 billion industry, we are going to need to speed up. So that was the moment we decided that the clients are really welcoming the solution, so we now need to scale this up, and that was the best time to start raising.
Right, Stephen, we'll get to the investment in a moment, but introduce the BGF for us. Introduce it as an organization.
We're 8.5 years old, so we were a startup. We have a big advantage over most startups. We had 2.5 billion, and I recommend that. It takes away all these endless funding rounds. So we've had no excuse that we're constantly fundraising. So what we focused on is investing, and I'm picking up on one of Tuğçe's point. One of the things we spend most of our time doing is actually talking about people, talking about what is it that entrepreneurs are trying to do in their business, and why are we excited by their business and their vision. So on the back of that very simple approach and being well capitalized, our mission statement was to try and create a really substantial investment organization in the UK, not just in London, lovely as that is, right across the country, so we could talk and have a conversation with lots of different types of businesses, not just in technology, but in traditional businesses. Because the great thing about all entrepreneurs is they are passionate about their business, and that's what drives us. So from that beginning, we have now grown an organization of 14 offices across the UK and Ireland. We make more than an investment a week, and we're investing up to £500 million a year, which has made us the largest investor in the country, and that's something we're very proud of.
Right, so just go back to the passion point very quickly. So you're investing across the country in lots of different sectors. When you look at the golden thread between the investments that you make, is passion the one? Is that what you're looking for in terms of the founder, the entrepreneur? How does that bear out, and what are the other factors?
Well, if you don't have passion, you're not going to get very far. And actually, I think a lot of entrepreneurs probably don't understand, and why should they, how does an investment organization work? There's going to be somebody you meet who is ultimately going to be your spokesperson, the person who's fighting John's war, to actually push the case and to get an organization to back you. And if you don't understand what makes somebody tick, how on earth can you understand what makes that business work? Because the entrepreneur, and Tuğçe is a great example of that, is a leader of their business. They've got to get people to join a business when at the beginning it may have great prospects but very little substance on day one. And what joins it is the connection between, is this a fairy tale, or is this actually an ambitious plan, and have you got the team to take it from startup through to a more established business and to scale up?
And what changes when the funding comes into the business? What changes in terms of your sense of responsibilities, expectations, patient versus impatient returns?
Very interesting question. Actually, day-to-day, nothing changes. Your responsibility doesn't change at all. Your number one responsibility is, in my opinion, towards your clients, towards your teams. So those things don't change at all either. And to be honest, the pressure to keep growing is there from day one, because I don't want to use the concept of war, but you did start what you started for a reason. So that, I would say that impatience is already inside you. Right, so I think with funding, what does change is the resources. That does change. So you can hire much more amazing numbers of people coming into your business that previously you would never be able to afford. That's the biggest change.
But is it more than just money? I mean, when you're looking for a funder of a business, how does the relationship work?
That's so important. So I had an investor meeting this week, and this was a follow-up meeting, and he was telling me that, you were meant to send me the financials. And I said to him that I will once I see the passion. passion cannot come after you see the financials. I would go to a bank for that, right? And if I'm gonna get an investor, I need to first see that they are as excited as we are about what we are building, what we are changing in the world, right? If we can't see that, we can't partner, partly because things don't always go well. There will be ups and downs, and if you are just in it for the financial returns, how are you going to continue to support the business? You need to be also in it for the reason why we built the business.
So Stephen, you saw the show of hands at the beginning from the entrepreneurs in the room that felt confident about the future. That's borne out by the data that Coutts has been collecting. 62% believe their industry is ripe for disruption, and that provides entrepreneurial opportunities. And more than half of the respondents saw investment in the UK increasing. You're looking at this from the point of view of change, ambition, but also the big picture changes of Brexit and so on. How do you see that future, and how will funding growth play out as an issue from here on in?
Well, I think it's, I would say this, I think it's a fundamental constituent of growing our economy, and there's an interesting sort of difference here between what people think about the world and what they think about themselves and their own business. We had an event in Birmingham in the summer. Like this, we asked people, are you worried about Brexit? Everybody's worried about Brexit. Are you worried about the economy? We're worried about the economy. Who's worried about their business? Nobody. Because you worry about your business every day, but you worry about it in a way that you think you can actually deal with it. So you're going to have a battle, but I can deal with that. I can go and hire somebody. I can reinvent the product. I can do something better. That is the essence, I think, of what makes us optimistic about the future. Britain has got a fantastic track record of creating businesses, and that is not slowing down. I think the role for investors, and Coutts is obviously a very successful bank, part of the RBS group, one of the largest banks in the country. Whether it's a bank or an investor, we have to absolutely sort of double down right now, because it would be way too easy to say, well, the world's very uncertain. Come back in a year's time when we know. So I think in terms of being ready, it's being ready for a changing environment and disruption, which is what all entrepreneurs talk about. They're going to disrupt a marketplace. Now the economy is being disrupted. What opportunities does that give you? It gives us all sorts of challenges, but it will also give opportunities.
So, Tisha, in terms of that uncertainty, I mean, there's another factor for you. You're a female leader, and female-led investment in female-led businesses is not anywhere near where it needs to be. In terms of how you found it and how you feel as a female leader in business, give us a sense of the process to get that capital into your business, and how hard, how uncertain was it?
I don't think there was any uncertainty. If you're building a good business, you're building a good business. And there will be a lot of people who wants to work with you. That applies to hiring people, that applies to bringing in capital. What I always advise to people who are coming fresh to the space is that look for gender-neutral investors. You don't want, in my opinion, personally, pro-female either, and you definitely don't want to be working with people who are anti-female. But we were always surrounded by loads of investors who are simply gender neutral. So when they look at you, they see an entrepreneur. They don't see a woman or man.
Right, Stephen, last question to you because we're out of time. But your campaign, Ready for Business, what does that mean from the point of view of an investor to be ready in this era right now?
We looked right across our portfolio, and a couple of my colleagues are here. Brexit may or may not happen at the end of October. What happens if it does go through? There will be a working capital squeeze. I mean, that is inevitable. Companies will not have as much cash as they thought they needed. So being ready is, and we've done this with every single one of our portfolio companies, how much cash do you need in a normal environment? How much headroom do you need? Double it. If you needed to double it, where are you going to get the cash? So we're trying to be very practical, because what will undermine confidence is if the rug is pulled under the feet of a lot of growing businesses. And I think there is liquidity. I think Tucci is quite right that good businesses will always find it. We just need to send the signals that we are open for business, and not just because it's a good cliche, but really following that through, putting in more capital. In June, it was the most active month we've ever had. So I think we're trying to practice what we preach, and if everybody does that, then there will be bumps for sure, but our strong view is that there are far more opportunities.
An optimistic place to leave it. Thank you very much, Stephen Welton, Tisha Ballou. Thank you so much. Right. Thank you very much indeed, guys. Now we move on to the final session of this evening, and it's a really great pleasure to welcome our speaker. If you could just bear with me. I know the networking is ready and the bar is open, but we have got an absolutely cracking finale to this evening, because it's a great pleasure to welcome one of our great UK business stories, a real titan of enterprise, the great story from finding a business in a small shop and taking it global. So Lloyd Dorfman is the founder of TravelX. It's the world's largest retail foreign exchange business, which he exited and has moved on to be I think they call it plural, invested in many different businesses. He's also one of the UK's most prolific philanthropists. I think just at the back, shh, it's not the House of Commons and I'm not John Bercow. I'll have your attention, please. Thank you so much. Right. Among much else, he is also the chairman of the Prince's Trust International, and we're going to hear a very, very special story at the end of that session. Please do give a massive, warm welcome to Sir Lloyd Dorfman. Come and have a seat. Now, you've been listening patiently this evening to the story of what it takes to make it. You've made it, you've had that story, that journey. Give us a sense of what being an entrepreneur means to you.
So, being an entrepreneur is, yes, of course, the money is important. That's why we all do it. But actually, in a funny sort of way, I don't think it's just about the money. Because today, you don't need to be an entrepreneur to make money. But I think it's being in control of your own destiny. I think it's being flexible and creative and boldly going where no one's ever boldly thought to go before. But at the end of the day, and I often think this, being an entrepreneur, and I don't know how many people here would agree, at the end of the day, it's not whatever size of business you have, it may not be the biggest ship, and it may not be the fastest ship, but it's your bloody ship, right? And for those of us who can't be corporate animals, being in control of your own destiny, being an entrepreneur is as important as making the money.
So take us to the beginnings of that journey. Take us back to Southampton Road, to the younger Lloyd, actually the person that was creating that business. Did you have a sense that, I suppose, what did you think you were going to achieve when you actually opened the shop?
I didn't go to university. I went to a very good school. That was good. I had a reasonably good education. Didn't go to university. Originally was going to be a barrister, liked the bar, didn't like studying, but always loved business. And I spent 3 years working in the city through a very difficult time in the city and for the UK. This was back in 73-4. There was miners' strikes, 3-day working weeks. Collapsed the property market, collapsed the stock market, Bank of England trying to stop banks from collapsing. But I always wanted to start my own business.
So at what point does meltdown make you think I'm going to be an entrepreneur?
Well, it was, by the time I decided to start my own business, we were sort of coming out the other side of the whole thing. And I was 23, 24, and I just always wanted to start my own business, didn't know quite what it should be, and then this was 76, coming into the Queen's Silver Jubilee year of 77. Lots of tourists due to come to London, so I thought I'd open a little shop in London as a bureau de change. In those days, there was exchange control. So as Brits, we were only allowed to take no more than £50 per person per trip. You had to have it
Is
marked.
that coming back?
It could be. If the Labour government get in, it will be. You'd be lucky to go anywhere. And you had to have it...
Couldn't possibly comment.
You had to have it marked in your passport. And this world, the world I was going into, was dominated by some of the largest and oldest financial organizations in the world. But sometimes, and I'm sure many people would relate to this here, you can think too hard about these things. So, it's a case of, ready, far aim. And I just wanted to have my own business, and I started this little shop.
And was the shop called TravelX?
Actually, TravelX didn't come into existence till 1985 as a name, which is when we won our first ever airport contract at Heathrow's then brand new Terminal 4. And I just put an off-the-shelf company and I called it Express Exchange. And for the first 3 months, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, all there was me. I had to borrow the money to start the business, and I had to shut the shop to go to the hotel next door to go to the toilet because there was no loo in the shop. And my first customer came in to change 300 French francs, if you remember what they were. And you never know, you might see them back again one day. And that's sort of how I started the business. But you know, can I produce for you the 35-year business plan that will show you from bottom left to top right how it would work?
Was there a moment where you thought, I'm onto a winner here? I mean, what was the, I mean, there must have been a moment where you thought, this isn't just an everyday business and there might be something really in this. I mean, what was the tipping point?
I mean, there were various tipping points at different scales. I mean, winning our first ever airport contract at Heathrow, when all they ever did was appoint the clearing banks to those contracts. I mean, I had to fight to reverse 2 refusals just to be allowed into the tender because we weren't an international or high street anything. I mean, that was very controversial appointment, huge watershed for the business. And then from that, we sort of didn't look back and we grew internationally. And then, and perhaps sort of quite relevant for now really, one of the other very big steps we took was in 2000. I won the auction to buy the Thomas Cook financial services business for £440 million from the then 3 shareholders. To put it in perspective, we didn't have the money. I'd never bought a business for £44 million, let alone 440. We also had to give an unlimited bank guarantee for 1.3 billion to Visa and MasterCard. And I mean, it was such a huge gap. I mean, I bet the business. But
it paid off, and you grew a big international business. But in terms of when you knew enough was enough, that your mission, that you had taken it to where you wanted to take it to, give us a sense of that moment, and how emotional was that for you?
So, by 2005, you know, I'd done the Thomas Cook transaction. We'd become a global business. We bought our competitor who was 4 times our size. You know, I was sitting with governors of central banks and prime ministers and presidents. They all wanted Travelex in their airports. The Chinese regulator was changing regulation because I told them they should do. And, you know, we were striding the world. But at the end of the day, you know, as somebody once said to me, these are businesses, you know, don't fall in love with your business. And I had still owned 63% of my business. So I had one big egg in one big basket. And, you know, my head told me that I should find a way to take a slice of the egg out of the basket. So I ended up, cut a long story short, doing a deal with private equity, and I sold a controlling shareholding to a large private equity company. And I went from 63% down to 30%, being the second largest shareholder. And of course, I'm sure as many of you will know, you know, when you take private equity shilling, you know that at the end of the day, there's got to be an exit. So when I finally came to do that, which was, and then of course we had the financial crisis and then the recession, so markets were delayed and difficult. In the end, we ended up running a twin track process in 2014, either an IPO or a sale, trade sale, and we ended up selling it to doing a trade sale.
And how did you feel?
And people said to me, you know, Lloyd, how do you feel? Are you emotional? We're emotional. You must be emotional. I wasn't emotional. Everyone else was
it was time to go.
Everyone else was getting emotional around me, and I was trying to think, why wasn't I emotional? You know, this had been sort of 40 years nearly. And actually, I realized that when I'd done the private equity deal back in 2005-06, when I wanted to take a slice of the egg out of the basket, that was the emotional.
The first step.
And I realized that it was more important from a family point of view to take a slice of the egg out of the basket than continue to be the chairman, the chief executive, and the controlling shareholder.
Now, we're going to welcome a very special guest in a moment, but in so doing, since you left Travelex, your life has gone off into a number of different areas. You've invested in a number of different sectors, from offices through to tech. You're an active philanthropist in the arts. But I think your work in the Prince's Trust has been absolutely exceptional and noteworthy in terms of the amount of commitment you've made, both here in the UK and internationally. In terms of why didn't you just spend your time playing golf? Why did you feel that need to keep on going, to give back, to stay on the bike, as I think your good friend Lord Young says? What's the motivation to keep on going?
So the bike reference, by the way, is a very old friend, a mutual friend of ours, who is 87, who very distinguished former minister in Margaret Thatcher's government, who has this great saying, which is, life's a bicycle. You stop pedaling and you fall off. So retirement is not a healthy thing to do. And you know, I created, built and run an operation-intensive business. I've experienced a lot of stuff. I don't even play golf, but how much bloody golf can you play anyway? And I want to do things. So, you know, I have a private office. We're investors in a whole range of different businesses. For Prince's Trust, I originally got involved because back in 2001, I wanted to find a way to mark the 25th anniversary of when I started Travelex. So I thought, what nicer way could there be than to find a way to help other young people who perhaps didn't have some of the natural advantages that I had growing up to start their businesses. And that led me to the Prince's Trust in 2001. I then got asked to join the development board, which is the private sector fundraising. I then got asked to join the board in 2007. I became chairman in 2015. Not long after that, I became chairman of Prince's Trust International as well, which is really just 4 years old. And then just about last summer, the Prince said to me, Lloyd, he said, you're good at building things. He said, I'd really like it if you would devote all your Prince's Trust time for me to build Prince's Trust International, which is still in its early stages. Prince's Trust is 43 years old. Prince's Trust International has become an important part of his agenda. So I now devote all my time to do that.
That's the startup back in your life. Let's show a video of our guest to put in perspective the person you're going to meet.
My father had Parkinson's disease and there was no cure. I grew up witnessing my father getting more sick. When he died, my whole world really did feel like it had fallen apart. After my father passed away, I was extremely vulnerable. I met this man, and in a sense, I suppose I was groomed, and I was raped when I was 17 and badly beaten up. This went on for several months. I felt angry with myself that I'd allowed this to happen to me. Despite everything, I managed to get a place at Bristol University. I met this wonderful young man who kind of filled me with hope, you know, and made me feel safe. Unfortunately, my first year of university, he was shot dead. I just couldn't understand why these things kept happening to me, and I really wanted to give up. And so a friend of mine told me about the Prince's Trust. I did the 4-day training for the Enterprise programme, where you're taught different skills of how to run a business. I'd really never set up a business before. I felt really empowered and I thought, actually, you know, maybe I can do this. Maybe this is something that I can do. My company, WorkSpa, is a corporate wellbeing company, so we go into organisations across the UK and offer services such as mindfulness, massage, yoga. I was asked if I'd like to apply to become an ambassador. It's just been the most unbelievable journey. So I've spoken at lots of different events. My first talk was at Buckingham Palace. It's given me a voice. You know, being able to share my story has been absolutely life-changing. I feel more alive and more at peace with myself.
Couldn't possibly be more proud of you. Could a mum not be?
If there was one thing that I would say to the Prince's Trust, it would just be thank you so much for the way that you've changed my life. I'm so grateful.
Welcome. Grace, welcome.
Hi.
What a story. I mean, it just puts hairs on the back of your neck out listening to that. I mean, just bring us up to date since that video. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been making everyone cry for 15 months with my role as ambassador, so I've been apologising a lot. So my business, I set up my company Work Spa with the incredible support of the Prince's Trust. I went on the Enterprise Programme, which is an amazing programme that supports young people coming up in business. So you're taught different skills from how to make a sale, to build confidence and branding. And once you then have that belief or feel that it's something that you want to continue to do, you go on a year's programme and you have a year to complete a business plan. So I did that, and during that time, due to some of the traumatic experiences that I've been through, I was heavily suffering from addiction. And it was when I came to the Prince's Trust, I had this real sense of belief that anything was possible and that I really had to start taking my life a bit more seriously. So I checked into rehab and completed my business plan, and on my return, the Prince's Trust said that they would still support me. And so when I came back, I went to panel and they said that they thought my business was viable, and so they continued to support me, and I've got a wonderful mentor called Chris Letcher who continues to guide me in my own self-development and the development of my business.
So entrepreneurship has been how you've taken control of your life and your future. If you would think about the learnable lesson about what business has enabled you to do, what would you share?
I think definitely resilience, I think in some ways I look back at some of my history and some of my experiences, and I think that actually all of that gave me a lot of resilience to actually face the challenges that you face in business. And so there are times where, I went blank there.
Lloyd, do you see this with the young entrepreneurs you're meeting now, is that actually entrepreneurship is more than, to your point, more than just making money. This is actually about purpose, it's about the future, it's about making the difference. Is that why you're backing the Prince's Trust?
Yeah, look, as I said earlier, I first got involved because I wanted to help other young people start their own businesses. Interestingly, in the 40-odd years that Prince's Trust has been backing people like Grace, Prince's Trust has helped something like 125,000 businesses get started. We've helped over the 40 years something like nearly a million young people in one way or another. Not everybody wants to start a business. Prince's Trust does more than that with young people. But I think for those of us who've made money at any level, it's a privilege and a pleasure to help and support charities like Prince's Trust, to help people like Grace. Over the years, I've heard many stories like Grace. Not that we need to be reminded why we do this, but when you hear stories like Grace's, you know why you do it. And I would say to all you guys, you've heard Grace talk about having a mentor, whether you want to be a mentor or even if you want to just support it, philanthropically. Prince's Trust is a wonderful organisation to support.
So that's the organisation, but what I want to just get to is this thing about many people, many young people dream about doing what you did. The difference between dreaming and doing can often be a massive gulf. In terms of what held you back and how you found your way forward, what did you find in yourself that helped you cope and prosper?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges for everybody is self-belief. And so I came to the Prince's Trust with not much self-love or self-worth, and it was really the support of the mentors, the support of the program that really helped me, create that belief. And I think when you can find people that believe in you until you're able to believe in yourself, that makes a huge difference in your development. So in a sense, I think anybody can be an entrepreneur. It's, wonderful organisations like the Prince's Trust that create you know, free mentorship and free support that, you know, can support so many people to turn a small idea into something really great.
And when you've got a call out to some exceptionally successful people that have been there, done it, and they might be thinking, you know, maybe the answer is the Prince's Trust, but if they just want to do their own thing, if they want to find a way to contribute, to find a way of being more purposeful, what's your message to them as a younger entrepreneur?
I think for me it was, you know, it's about having a bit of faith, you know, especially when I had to leave work and find a new source of income and think about, you know, how I was going to pay my bills. I had so many people that were telling me, how can you leave a 9 to 5 and, you know, you've got a regular income. And really it's finding that resilience and strength within yourself, that if you have a desire that you want to create something, you know, it's listening to yourself and listening to that your intuition, your voice, and kind of going with that regardless, you know. So I think that's what's really worked for me.
And a last final question to you both. When you look at the future, when you look at this, you know, we're talking about prospering through change, in terms of how you see it from your vantage points. Lloyd, perhaps you first, and Rach, you give us the final word.
Look, I mean, yeah, on one level, you know, I mean, the change we face, whatever happens, is, you know, huge. But in my experience, you know, big change creates big opportunity. One of the most formative things that ever happened for us in TravelX was the introduction of the euro. And our vision was that we would have a larger slice of a smaller cake. So, you know, for this country, for entrepreneurs, you know, yes, you know, the future is absolutely uncertain, but give us certainty, whatever it is, and I speak as a Remainer. But, you know, let's roll our sleeves up and get on with it.
And Grace, your thoughts about the future, a final comment for us.
You know, for me, you know, there have been challenging times, but I've been so fortunate to have the support of the amazing Prince's Trust, and I think as companies and as businesses, we have a responsibility to give back what we've been taught on our journeys. And, you know, my company's still in the early stages. You know, we're 2 years running, but we work with some incredible organisations like HSBC, Fujitsu and the White Company. And, you know, the Prince's Trust, all of my clients, about 80% have come from my talks at the events that I've done. So I think it's about creating those opportunities for young people, for them to be able to prosper.
Grace, apart from the HSBC mention, that was an almost perfect
but I knew it was nearly at the end, so I thought I'd get it in there.
Coutts could be a customer as well.
Yes,
Coutts, you can be a customer as well.
Let's pick it up at the bar. Sir Lloyd Dorfman, Grace Grove, thank you so much indeed. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Right, thank you so much for your patience. You've been up on your feet. We've just got a final sum up from my colleague Greg Carr-Langley, who usually does these sorts of things with a wonderful poetry and symmetry and brings it all together exceptionally. Greg, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I can't follow that incredible story, so just give me 4 minutes to talk you through what we've done today and what we're doing currently at Coutts. So I'm not going to go back over our initial meeting with John, for those of you who were here, but we'll look at the meeting notes afterwards. The main thing that I took away from him was him saying that all the great things that have happened at Lyon have happened when I've been relaxed. Your peripheral vision is open and it can help you see the things that you can't spot otherwise. We then heard some amazing things from the panel, just touching on a few bits around helping people really get how massive esports and gaming is today. So the Fortnite Championship recently, 100 million live viewers. If you are not particularly clued up in esports, you need to understand this business. And I loved hearing as well, using Football Manager to create data to affect the real world of sport and government. Doing it all in your pants, as many of us would love to do with our jobs, I'm sure. Stephen and Touche, we heard a couple of bits here. Touche, the key thing we've heard so many times, focus. You started what you started for a reason. I think lots of entrepreneurs really want to make sure they're keeping that focus. And this point around you worry about your business every day, but in a way that you can manage. So it's the worries that you can't manage that really get to you. So build a plan to tackle those. We've heard this all around the country, it's the same thing. So Lloyd Dorfman, being flexible, creative, and boldly going where no one's gone before. In the words of Captain Picard, it's your bloody ship. And lastly, Grace. Look, talking to entrepreneurs across the UK, resilience is the word that we heard from all of them, but never as powerfully and filled with so much meaning as the way that Grace has talked, and her self-belief as well. We've all got a responsibility to give this back. But I just want to touch on a point. It's not all bright in entrepreneurship. And, you know, if you want to learn about mission, then buy the book. It's in all good bookshops and some less good ones. A brief word on female founders. Last year, an e-cigarette firm called Juul raised $12 billion. That was $10 billion more than every female founder in the US combined. Even ignoring that massive deal, the 3 largest fundraisers in the US raised more than every woman who was looking for funding. And our new CEO at RBS, Alison Rose, who's the first female head of a top UK bank, she wrote the Rose Review for the government earlier this year and found the same story here. It's all of our responsibility to solve this. And Coutts and NatWest have already built this awesome entrepreneurial engine that's really pushing this forward. There's 12 accelerators around the country. There's 1,000 businesses every 6 months that we take in there. There's funding matching to help female founders get their businesses off the ground. And when they're ready to scale, capital and connections through the Coutts Private Investment Club, key ecosystem partners like the Business Growth Fund, and our incredible black book of people who have been there and done it. And ever since the days of Thomas Coutts, this bank has been all about connecting our network to help everybody tackle their problems and succeed together. So that's the point. These events aren't individual evenings, but these are opportunities to meet people who can help you drive your business forward. And if you've been inspired by any of what you've heard tonight, I hope you act on it and remember that Coutts is a partner that's here to help you achieve your vision. We'll be sharing deeper insights throughout the month, as well as the results of our research into the opportunities and challenges of entrepreneurialism, as Michael's talked about. We really hope you continue to get involved. We'd love to hear any feedback about tonight. So how do we keep the conversation going? There's Coutts Connect, our private social network. Talk to your Coutts contacts to learn more about that. We're on social, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, possibly the first year we've ever properly gone at social media, so I'm really looking forward to how that's going to go. We hope to see many of you back here on the 7th for our tech evening, and do also check out the tech events that our friends at NatWest are running next week. Visit natwestbusinesshub.com. Thank you to all of our speakers. Thank you all for coming. I know it's very wet out there. I hope you can all find your respective umbrellas later. Please stay for drinks. Find the incredible people in this room who can make the difference for your business or whose success you can transform. Thank you very much.
That's it. All it remains for me to do is to call this evening over. We promised to give you something to think about. Thank you so much for listening to our superb speakers. The bar is now open. Please do have a drink, meet some new friends, and we'll see you at the next event in the Coutts Entrepreneur Month. Thank you so much.